The most challenging notes to date are being written by the man who, with Barbara Streisand, kept a notebook every day. Before she accepted, James Brolin asked her to marry him 3 times. He recently informed the producers that at this time, he is unable to offer anything. Following their 25th wedding anniversary last year, they are finally merging their disparate bank accounts as medical expenditures mount. The pair is dealing with their most significant issue. Hollywood insiders claim that Brolin declined a $2 million part in order to remain at home. Perhaps the saddest part of his narrative comes next. James Brolin was born Craig Kenneth Brolin. On July 18, 1940, he was born in Los Angeles amid extreme heat. It was 103 degrees on the day he arrived. His father, Henry, a skilled craftsman, barely made it to the hospital. He arrived 12 minutes prior to Craig's birth. Henry governed his household with extreme strictness. Craig has had daily tasks and weekly conduct reviews since he was 4 years old. His mother, Heather, never disclosed to Craig that she had previously been an extra in a film. She did not want him to become distracted from his studies. Craig's severe asthma contributed to his introverted nature as a child. At the age of 7, he spent 45 days in the hospital. He was intelligent, though. He disassembled and reassembled his father's watch when he was 9 years old. No one could have predicted how much he would admire James Dean, despite the fact that his teachers were aware of his aptitude for mechanics. When Craig was 15, he saw East of Eden, and it completely transformed his life. For 6 months, he made the 17-mile journey to Griffith Park on his bike every Saturday. When he was alone, he mimicked Dean's face, his voice, and his gait. He concealed 73 copies of news articles regarding James Dean in his room behind a painting. He saved almost $200 by delivering papers to customers, and he used that money to purchase an 8mm camera. He recorded 24 quiet reenactments with local children. After Dean perished in a vehicle accident, Craig was silent for 11 days. His acting instructor discovered one of his short films and, without telling him, sent it to UCLA. It received an honorary mention from Nicholas Ray, who directed Dean in Rebel Without a Cause. After that, Craig would puke up before every interview because he was so shy. However, it put an end to his aspirations of becoming an actor. In 1960, he was ordered to change his name. According to the studio, Brolin sounded German. People were significantly more likely to remember short names with hard consonants, according to statistics. Craig had no desire to go. In 7 meetings, he resisted it, but the business prevailed. They gave him James because he was obsessed with James Dean. His father didn't speak to him for over a year. To try to explain, his mother forwarded his updated photo to family members. After 214 nights of not being able to sleep without medication, they told James that he was acting too much like Dean. That was their desire. In 1966, Brolin had brief roles in the Batman television series. He started out as a bank employee. He gained more time on TV because he liked the way he dropped the money bags. Months later, a different director, unaware that he had previously been on the show, cast him as the Eraser. He shattered 3 ribs while performing his own feats. He was then selected for a 3rd role by Adam West. Nobody on the set was aware that he had already been cast twice. He was sleeping in a 1958 Chevy at the time and had nowhere to live. He showered at the gym at Fox Studios. In 1967, everything fell apart. He appeared in the Cape Town Affair, a film he predicted would fail. He made notes regarding the problematic narrative and cultural issues. Nobody paid attention. While he and his mother were in the hospital, the movie tanked, and he was sacked. To make matters worse, Fox ordered him to refund $11,400 in salary. For 18 months, He had no money. He couldn't get a job. Because he was a mechanic for them, most in Van Nuys were unaware that he had formerly been a rising star. Then destiny took control. The manager at Universal was impressed by the manner Brolin fixed his automobile when he brought it in for repair. After taking the screen exam, Brolin's life was transformed by the part that Dr. Stephen Kiley spoke about Marcus Welby, M.D. From 1969 to 1976, the show was available for viewing. Brolin portrayed a youthful physician who rode a motorcycle and collaborated with an elderly companion. The show was well received by many. In 1970, he took home 2 Golden Globes and an Emmy. The ABC broadcast was viewed by a large audience. It included serious health issues like depression, cancer, and Alzheimer's. Following a program regarding homosexuality, there were protests, but Brolin remained committed to his mission of presenting significant tales. He portrayed a stranger in the 1972 film Skyjacked. He portrayed a furious Vietnam veteran who commandeers an aircraft. He co-starred with Charlton Heston in a film. Brolin made the figure appear real, and the film was both thrilling and frightening. Even though his portrayal of the insane attacker was exaggerated, several people felt he did a fantastic job. Westworld was released in 1973. He portrayed self-assured John Blaine, a visitor to a theme park where robots appeared and behaved like people. For the first time, video effects were used in a popular science fiction film. The rest of the film was made much more thrilling by its stunning conclusion. The character played by Brolin passes away in the middle of the film. His contributions added complexity and diversity to the film. In 1979, Brolin began writing horror stories. He was George Lutz in the Amityville Horror. He wasn't sure about the film at first, until he was frightened after reading the plot. He just dropped his pants from a chair. For him, it had significance. The film earned over $80 million at the box office, demonstrating its success. It was terrifying to see Brolin portraying a man who was gradually losing his mind. It demonstrated how concerned many people were in the late 1970s about family issues and job loss. Although there were arguments between him and co-star Margot Kidder behind the scenes, the mood enhanced the narrative. In 1985, Brolin displayed his humorous side in Pee-wee's Big Adventure. He played a cool secret spy and pretended to be Pee-wee. It was a witty reference to how much he resembled James Bond. At the same time, he was the star of the television program Hotel. It provided Brolin with a stable work for 5 years. He portrayed Peter McDermott, the elegantly dressed manager of a posh San Francisco hotel. With Brolin as its core, each episode had a fresh plot and fresh characters. Even some shows were under his direction. At the time, he was vying for 2 Golden Globes. Additionally, he met Jan Smithers, who would later become his wife, and played a supporting role after his difficult split. Barbra Streisand, on the other hand, was born in Brooklyn on April 24, 1942. Emmanuel was a famous teacher, and Diana worked as a school secretary. His annual salary of $4,200 was insufficient to maintain the family in their modest apartment. Barb's father passed away at the age of 15 months due to a seizure. They had to move in with their parents because they had only saved $250. In 1949, Barbara's mother remarried and had a half-sister. Later, Barbara discovered a message from her father in her birth book. "I have a feeling this one is going to be special." However, things did not improve. He once threatened to shatter her heart and was icy. In 1958, at the age of 16, she moved out. She has nowhere to go and no money. For a year and a half, she lived in various locations, including old cots, chairs from friends, and even summer fire escapes. 12 records, 2 pairs of shoes, and 3 outfits were all in her single suitcase. It had tape holding it together. Even in those days, she continued to attend school every day. She learned in coffee shops and libraries, while working part-time for 75 cents an hour. She only earned $17 per week. In order to prolong it, she visited her mother twice a week right before dinner, allowing her to eat without claiming to be homeless. In addition to fixing the garment herself, she dyed it a new color using extra costume materials. For 3 years, she wore the same coat. In 1960, Barbara was earning little more than $46 a week working as an usher at a theater. She has seen almost 100 performances of The Sound of Music. She sang in the theater by herself before work to improve her health, and she knew every line by heart. After hearing her sing one evening, a stage manager assumed she was a stand-in. They wanted to know who she was. "I'm trying out," she declared aloud. She sung for 3 casting directors at the time, just because they were close. 2 days later, she was earning $18 for her singing in a nightclub, double her typical earnings. But because she disregarded the rules, she was let go. It didn't matter because it was her first major foray into show business. Prior to then, she had never taken singing lessons. As she discovered, she performed in stairwells and subways to generate small crowds and listen for echoes. She shared a tiny, sweltering apartment with her buddy Barry Denon during that year. Because of him, she consented to record 3 songs. They were using an outdated reel-to-reel recorder, and Barbara had to remain motionless and 27 inches from the microphone. They played the footage back, and Barry dropped his coffee mug in disbelief. Her voice was unlike any he had ever heard. The tape was listened to by 14 music industry professionals. Not everyone believed it to be true. One music executive wouldn't accept that it was created by an untrained youngster, since he was certain it had been correctly engineered. However, the truth was revealed, and the Library of Congress now has that rough tape. Everything changed after that night. September 1960 was the month. Barbara, just 18, took the stage at a nightclub wearing a dress she had purchased for $6 at a second-hand store. Her earrings were mismatched. She had already had 7 interviews rejected that month because she was deemed too strange-looking. She was even told she had a 5-cent look but $1 million voice. But not that evening. She performed "Who's Afraid of the Big Bad Wolf?" and "Cry Me a River" in a humorous manner. The audience fell silent. They then cheered for about 5 minutes. She received a perfect score for the first time ever from a judge. A nasty person even predicted that her nose would become as well known as her voice. In 2 months, she had 23 paid gigs. She demonstrated that having talent was more significant than appearance. In 1961, she had numerous name changes. The second A was omitted, and she became Barbara. She claimed that it set her apart. She continued to perform the odd tunes she enjoyed, and did not get plastic surgery to alter her appearance. One chilly night, she had 7 guests at her presentation. She played as if everyone was present, unconcerned. She refused to adapt in order to fit in, thus it worked. Broadway then opened in 1962. "I Can Get It For You Wholesale" was the name of the show she appeared in. Despite having a 103 degrees temperature the day before the major tryout, she went. She battled for her big sequence, which was nearly deleted because it was too odd. On the first night, she was forced to sing it 3 times by the audience. She didn't have a leading role, but she was the only one mentioned in the reviews. She was described in the media as the funniest thing on Broadway since Fanny Brice. At first, she was earning $175 a week, but her contract was altered 5 times. In 1963, Barbara's debut album was released. Columbia Records believed it wouldn't sell well, so they only produced 10,000 copies. It had no singles, just ballads and show numbers. However, 150,000 copies were sold in a single month. She was the leader. In addition to choosing the tracks, she declined a colored cover in favor of a straightforward black and white one. She won the Grammy for Record of the Year, even though it wasn't what anyone advised her to do to promote her album. She was Frank Sinatra's defeat. They were so upset over the Grammys that they quit. In her brief address, she stated, "This isn't luck. This is what happens when you don't listen to people who don't understand your vision." She portrayed Fanny Brice in Funny Girl the next year. She was not invited to play the role by Brice's daughter. Barbara, in her opinion, was not attractive enough, too young, and too Jewish. People took out over $1 million after learning she had the part. But Barb broke it. Despite having pneumonia, she played the role 867 times and missed only 2. She continued. She performed songs written just for her because her voice was a 3. 5 octaves is the range. She was soaked by a broken fountain in one moment, but she continued to sing. He included it in the concert since he enjoyed it so much. By the end, tickets were being sold illegally for £150, a substantial sum at the time, despite the fact that people were unhappy when the performance moved to London. In 1965, she signed a TV contract with CBS. It was worth $5 million for 10 shows. The agreement gave her complete authority, despite the fact that she was barely 23. No changes could be made by CBS without her consent. She was unable to have commercials throughout her performances. Her debut show, My Name is Barbara, broke all the rules. She sang alone in the dark to start the performance. Though 71% of those watching TV that evening were paying attention, the folks in power were terrified. She won 5 Emmys. She even created her own cuts for the show. The director later claimed that he had just followed her instructions. In 1968, she made her impact on film history by leaving Broadway to go to the movies. The role that made her famous on Broadway was that of Fanny Brice in Funny Girl. The film was the biggest hit of the year and the highest-grossing film in the United States. Barbara received the Academy Award for Best Actress because of how well she played the part. It was her very first film. What's even surprising is that she tied with Katharine Hepburn, which has never happened in that Oscar category. The film demonstrated that Barbara was more than just a theater star and received 8 Oscar nominations. She was now a movie star as well. Funny Girl was preserved as a national treasure by the Library of Congress after many years. But Barbara was more than just a show singer. Doc, with What's Up? She took a major risk in 1972. Ryan O'Neal is in a humorous, wacky movie. At first, she didn't like the story and told reporters it wouldn't work, but behind the scenes, significant modifications were made. O'Neal performed the serious role, and hers was adjusted to be more playful. It was successful. It was the 3rd most watched film of the year and a huge smash. For the role, Barbara earned more than her co-star, $500,000, and her humor was praised by critics. One of the greatest American sitcoms ever made, the film went on to become a classic. The next year, Barbara co-starred with Robert Redford in The Way We Were. The narrative of a fervent Jewish activist and a lovely writer was told in this book, which was set in America during a highly stressful political period. Despite only costing $5 million to make, the film generated $50 million. She won the top Italian Cinema Prize for it, and received another Oscar nomination. The title song, which she sang, sold over 2 million copies, and was the first major hit of 1974. It was inducted into the Grammy Hall of Fame after many years. By now, Barbara desired greater control over her employment. In 1972, she founded Barwood Films, her own production company. Her first project was called Up the Sandbox. A bored housewife who withdraws into her dreams was the subject of this odd but courageous film. Despite its poor box office performance, critics praised its courageous handling of feminism. According to critics, she possessed the same cinematic presence as legendary actors like Greta Garbo. She portrayed a woman who didn't seem to care what other people thought, which wasn't common in movies at the time, according to Roger Ebert. Then A Star is Born was released in 1976. Barbara directed it in addition to acting in it. The love ballad, Evergreen, from the film was a big hit. She co-wrote the song and became the first woman to win an Oscar for music writing. It also took home a Grammy and a Golden Globe. Later, Evergreen was hailed as one of her greatest songs ever, and it earned her another Golden Globe. Being that successful was not an easy feat, giving up creative control was difficult for Barbara, particularly after she produced her debut film, Yentl, in 1983. She spent 15 years working on it. She was rejected by 12 companies before receiving $14 from one. $5 million is the budget. She oversaw a staff of 168 people, the most of whom were men, worked 20-hour days, and concealed herself by wearing tight restraints. Some even placed bets that she wouldn't succeed, but she proved them all wrong. It earned over $40 million. Nevertheless, one individual stated that because she was a woman, he would not cast his ballot for her. The number at that time was 0. Women directed 5% of the films produced by major studios. The Golden Globes wouldn't place Barbara in the top category for directing, despite Yentl's stellar 1984 reviews. They created a brand new honor specifically for her, Best Director in a Comedy or Musical. The following year, that title disappeared. Barbara politely questioned why she wasn't involved in the ceremony along with the others. Her narrative became so well known in Congress that it was used as evidence of Hollywood's discrimination against women. Years passed, but Barbara persisted. She returned to filmmaking with the 1991 release of The Prince of Tides. Over the span of 3 years, the story underwent 26 revisions. She hired dozens of people who had lost their houses in South Carolina following a hurricane. The film earned $63 million and received 7 Oscar nominations. She became the first woman to be named in the history of the Directors Guild when, after 44 years, she was finally given an award. However, she received a nomination for Best Director at the Oscars. The fact that 94% of Oscar voters for directors were men infuriated many even more. In 1995, Barb made even more history. Her HBO concert special earned her the Directors Guild Award for television directing. She was the first female winner in that particular category. The show comprised 223 camera sets, 125 crew members, and 11 cameras. Barbara was experiencing severe stage anxiety following a 1967 performance in which she lost her words. For 27 years, she had avoided taking the stage due to her fear. The show earned $93 million from 26 million viewers. Barbara pointed out during the service that just 3 women currently accounted for 7% of TV directing positions. She has been fighting the DGA for the same issue for 25 years. When Barbara wasn't in the spotlight, her private life was frequently traumatic. She married the actor Elliot Gould in 1963. Their son, Jake, was born in 1966. When Barbara found out she was pregnant, she canceled a $1 million tour. She frequently brought Jason to work with her since she liked being a mother. However, the marriage suffered. Gould struggled with gaming and drugs. Because he sold their belongings to pay for his bad habits, she feared for their child's safety. After splitting up in 1969, they divorced in 1971. On July 1, 1996, Barb Strand and James Brolin went on a blind date. It almost didn't occur. Both had been in failed relationships and were in their mid-50s. Since 1971, Strand has not been married. Brolin, who was only $1, had recently passed away from his second marriage for $1 million in debt. They were arranged by their friend Linda Bruckheimer after they had to cancel twice. That evening before he saw Strand, Brolin abruptly decided against going out with another woman. He took a Valium because he was afraid. Strand assumed the man with the beard would be tough, but for some reason, he was clean-shaven. In the end, they spoke for 6 hours. Later on, they discovered that they were only 3 years old. They are separated by 44 miles in Los Angeles. "Who messed up your hair?" Strand inquired as soon as she saw him, not intending to be cruel, but it really upset Brolin. His ex-wife had never complimented him on his appearance in 11 years. He remembered one item that was mentioned. He nearly went, but he stayed because of something in her eyes. That night ended at 3:27 a.m. When she requested a lock of his hair. She held on to it. Together with a handwritten letter, they now have it framed in their house. After just 17 minutes of meeting him, she later stated that she sensed he was different from the 28 blind dates she had gone on in the previous 3 years. Brolin made 10 attempts to propose to her. They met in a hot air balloon above Napa Valley 87 days prior to the first one. He gave her a score of 3. A 9-carat diamond worth $250,000. "No," she said. She had a 2-year rule following a terrible breakup with her former fiancé. The second one was created on New Year's Eve 1997 in New York. He played her favorite song from her youth while kneeling in front of her 14 pals. She said no once more. The third time it worked. It took place during a party at her Malibu house on March 15, 1998. This time, he sent her a 24-page letter that contained 98 arguments in favor of their relationship. She was secretly engaged to another man when they first met. He was unaware of this, and she finally revealed it to him in her memoir years later. She ended their relationship after their 5th date. They were married on July 1, 1998. 2 years after their first date. The cost of the wedding was $1. $4 million. It took place at Strand's house in Malibu. There were NDAs with $250,000 fines for violating them, a no-fly zone, and 37 guards. At 8:47 p.m., things started to move. The precise time of their first encounter. White orchids and roses totaling 1,500 were imported from 4 separate nations. Guests included Marlon Brando, the Clintons, Oprah Winfrey, and Tom Hanks. Strand was dressed in a 27-foot-long train dress.
Brolin sported a diamond-ringed Armani suit for the occasion. At 11:43 p.m., Brolin spoke at the party, and a children's band from her organization sang a song she wrote specifically for the occasion, "I've Finally Found You." It contained 273 words. Strand had a frame made for it. For 27 years, he struggled to fall asleep, saying, "Every night is a new adventure. Sleeping is a waste of time. I can't wait to see her again in the morning." She assisted in his recovery. They had spent 642 nights together prior to the wedding. In bed, they read poetry, solved crossword puzzles, and reminisced about the past. They kept it to themselves. Brolin also performed a tune he had secretly learned on the piano that evening. As a joke with his pals, he spelled Barbara's name incorrectly, even though it was called Barbara's Lullaby. John Travolta later said that Brolin had kept a journal in which he recorded each day they were together. On their 25th wedding anniversary, he planned to present it to her. They accomplished that in 2023. From the start of their marriage, their financial accounts were separate. Split was the term for it. Brolin came up with the notion after losing $3 million in his second split. They even divide the cost of dinner every Tuesday, he claimed. Given that Brolin had $60 million and Strand had $400 million, this kept things equitable. They had $800,000 for the house in a single account. In a 2023 interview, Brolin stated that this agreement prevented them from fighting about money, which in Hollywood may lead to divorce. Their bond grew even closer during the COVID-19 lockdown. After a breakup, many people fell in love again. They spent 425 consecutive nights together. It was 6:45 a.m. when they awoke. M contemplated and prepared meals. For every year they may have been married, there was a puzzle. Twice they dressed up and acted out scenes from Bridgerton and The Crown. During the lockdown, they even kept a 278-page log, which Brolin claimed may become a memoir. Their Swedish mattress, which cost $35,000, became their home. It was called the office. It featured areas to store papers, pillows that could be used as laptop stands, and various support settings for each person. They made important decisions regarding their careers from that bed. Lying there, Strand composed songs for her 2018 album. They spent 4 to 6 hours each day sleeping on that mattress. The cost of sealing their bedroom was $175,000.
Brolin claimed that the majority of their best ideas originated in the peaceful setting. When they quarreled, they took walks. This was no accident. They were instructed to walk about their three in various directions, to take deep breaths every 30 steps, and to refrain from using their phones. 2 acres of land. After 17 minutes, they returned and recorded their feelings in their journals. They employed this technique at least 217 times. They argued over Strand's book in 2019 and spent 3 days taking 7 walks. They continued to seek hotel staff for alternative walking routes while on vacation. Brolin claimed that taking walks allowed them to decompress and solve problems independently. Strand also continued to be active in her efforts to strengthen women's hearts. After learning that heart disease kills more women than all cancer combined, she launched the Fight the Lady Killer campaign in 2014. She helped fund a cardiac center at Cedars-Sinai and advocated for increased attention. She spoke at the National Institutes of Health in 2018 about how women frequently receive worse heart treatment than males. Only 1 in 4 women today die as a result of their profession, compared to 1 in 3 in the past. In addition, she spent 8 years writing her autobiography, My Name is Barbara. It was published in 2023 and has 970 pages. Everything was handwritten. She had been considering doing so since the 1990s. She was even asked to write it once by Jacqueline Kennedy. Critics liked its style and honesty. She would have scribbled the majority of it on their plush bed cushion, Brolin joked.